Hello my beautiful friends. Today I am so excited to be bringing you a spooky thriller recommendation video. Now you guys know I don't do horror, so there's like one or two that kind of dip a little into horror, but for the most part we're talking pure thrillers, and we are talking thrillers that are either very like dark, twisted kind of psychological thrillers, and for the most part ones that have very creepy settings. These are ones that just have very eerie settings. So one of the first books that came to mind for this video was House of Glass by Sarah Pekkanen. As you can tell from the title here, this features a prominent house, and despite this name, the glass in this house, it's metaphorical. There's actually no glass. The entire house is made of plastic. Not one element of glass in this entire house. Our main character in this is Stella, and she is a best interest attorney. She doesn't represent people under 13 usually because she's had a traumatic childhood herself, but her mentor thinks she's going to be able to help Rose Barclay, who is a 9-year-old girl who recently in her family something terrible happened. A nanny fell to their death, and Rose possibly witnessed this and has also completely stopped speaking. And Stella's mentor thinks that she'll be able to help, so she goes into the home. She's spending time with Rose, but it seems like the Barclay family has something to hide, and this is a very historic, old, beautiful home, a gorgeous setting in theory, but she finds it interesting that there is no glass anywhere, and she wants to know what this family is hiding. Really creepy and eerie setting. I really enjoyed this one. A perfect Halloween thriller that takes place around Halloween is One Dark Night by Hannah Richell. This just came out in August. Hannah Richell is a favorite writer of mine. I've really enjoyed her work so far, and this one has a very eerie setting in the woods. So on Halloween night, a group of teenagers meet in this woods. There's lots of local legends. Something goes wrong, and one of them is found dead. Now we have several characters we're reading from. This is a very atmospheric read. We have the school guidance counselor whose daughter is in school, and she's very worried and concerned about her. She thinks her daughter's keeping secrets. She probably is. Then we have Ben, who is her ex-husband and a detective on the case, and he is trying to figure out what has happened to her classmate, and he's also worried about this whole situation with his daughter, and they find out that the daughter has been keeping secrets about where she was that night. This book had me on edge. I read it as an ARC earlier this year, and it's one of my favorite reads this year so far. It was very creepy. I still remember being shocked by the ending, and just the scenes in the woods are really unsettling, which I think makes it a perfect Halloween read. For a book that doesn't necessarily have a creepy setting, but has a very dark, psychological premise. Also, I love how this is described on the back by Claire Contreras. It says, deliciously disturbing. That is perfect. This is the book I Can Be a Better You by Tarryn Fisher, and this is one of the most unnerving psychological thrillers I've read. I just remember being hooked, hook, line, and sinker with this. And we basically have our main character Fig, thus the fig on the cover here, and she's having a rough time of it. She's over 30. She feels like she's not very happy with her body. She's not very happy with her life, her lack of a love life. She's just not having the best time of things, unfortunately. She's a very lonely person, and she's just fed up with a lot of things. And then she has this new neighbor named Jolene, who has an awesome husband, who has a gorgeous daughter. She seems to have everything that Fig wants, and Fig starts to kind of encroach on Jolene's life and emulate her and almost become I Can Be a Better You. She almost tries to become her, and it is a disturbing, creepy, but really fantastic psychological thriller. I can't go into some of the details about why I love it so much without giving spoilers, but it's really good. I actually just picked up my second book by Tarryn Fisher because I need to read more from this author. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Now this book does take place in the summer from what I remember, but it gives haunted house vibes to the max, and I absolutely adore that for this time of year. So this book follows Maggie Holt, who is returning to her childhood home that her family literally fled from in the middle of the night due to supposed supernatural things and creepy things going on there. Her father actually wrote a bestseller called House of Horrors about this, and she is constantly being hit up by reporters on this, and she's just trying to basically get this house sold. That's her goal right now. She's just I need to get this house sold. I just want to go back to my life. And while she's there, she's realizing that a lot of the things in her father's book are being mirrored today. She's having some of the same experiences, and she's determined to get to the bottom of what really happened and what's causing these things. And It is a perfect kind of like haunted spooky house vibe for a thriller, and I love it. This one also has two different kind of points of views you're reading from, which I love. You have Maggie's present day investigation and timeline, and then you're reading excerpts from the past from her father's book about what was happening to them all those years ago. It was phenomenal. It's still one of my favorite Riley Sagers, and it is a perfect spooky house type thriller that I would really recommend. If you like creepy, small town, isolated settings, like isolated cabin in the woods sort of settings, this next one is for you. It's by Shanora Williams, and it's called Whispers of the Lake. It came out this year. It's a psychological thriller that had me on the edge of my seat, and it's my personal favorite by this author so far. Our main character in this is Rose. She's an investigative reporter, and her friend Eve Costello ends up going missing. She is a travel influencer, so she is constantly attached to her phone, and no one can get a hold of her. Now, Rose and her had some kind of tiff months back. They have not been speaking, even though they're best friends. You learn about that as you read the book. But when her friends reach out to her and like, hey, we can't get a hold of Eve, can you try reaching out? And Rose can't. She knows something's wrong, and she knows the last place that Rose was this small North Carolina town at a lakefront like Airbnb. So she goes to it. As you can see, there's like a little cabin on the cover. She goes there, and the town is clearly hiding things. Like, they are clearly maybe protecting their own. They're keeping secrets. It's very ominous. You have some great scenes by the lake, like the woods and the surrounding area. A very kind of creepy small town because you feel like they're all against you as you're reading. And I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat. This was a really great one. I absolutely loved this book by Shanora Williams and would really recommend it as a very ominous, spooky setting. If you are looking for the darkest of thrillers, if you're really looking to go there for spooky, I read this, I think last September, and it's still a really big hit for me, and that is Sleep Tight by J.H. Markert. So this actually does tiptoe into horror just a little bit. I was able to get through it, and I'm definitely not a horror reader, so keep that in mind. If you're a true horror fan, it's probably not that dark for you, but I really, really loved this. This was a fantastic kind of investigation one, and it features a prominent, very creepy home, as you can see by this cover. This is described as a horror thriller in the vein of The Black Phone and The Whisper Man, if that gives you any idea. I haven't read those, but this one is about beware the one who got away. So we have Father Silence in this. Father Silence is, or I should say was, a serial killer. They were locked up, and they had this house of horror that you can see on the front here. They had 19 different bodies that were found there when they were caught, and one boy who was locked away in like a mental health facility. Many years later, we now have Tess, who has taken her father's job as a detective. Her father was the one who originally put away Father Silence, and Tess is dealing with some kind of copycat killer or something like that, because basically Father Silence is executed, but within like hours of the execution, things start to happen that are very reminiscent of Father Silence. Things that are even affecting Tess personally, who had some connection to the crimes and things that were going on originally. So it's very, very fascinating. If you enjoy reading from a detective perspective, I really enjoyed this, but I do feel like even if that's not normally your cup of tea, I thought they did a fantastic job of really humanizing the characters with this. I really, really liked Tess as a character. I still remember some of the personal subplots she was going through in this book. And in this one, she does actually get to go back and visit the boy who survived this ordeal. I would actually skip reading the synopsis because I just checked, and there's actually a kind of, to me, big spoiler in the synopsis. So if you plan on reading this, I would just skip reading that. I think I've given you the basics for this, but if you're looking for something that's very creepy, very dark, very intense, you get to kind of go into this house. It is very, very dark, but it was a very good creepy read for spooky season. Alright, one that I've read recently that I think would be perfect for this time of year or winter is The Woods Are Waiting by Katherine Greene. Beautiful autumnal cover, as you can see here. I love this. This had a very creepy, unsettling forest near the edge of this small town and the main character's home specifically, with local legends about kind of a boogeyman who like kidnaps children. Our primary character in this is Cheyenne, and she is led back to her small town in Virginia, the base of the Appalachian Mountains, and she's brought back there because her mother is not doing well. And as a child, children had gone missing in the woods. There's always been these local legends about kind of a boogeyman or someone out there, maybe the woods themselves, like devouring kids. And when she was little, all 3 kids actually were found dead in the woods, and at the time a man named Jasper was put away for these crimes. However, similar things are starting to happen again, and Cheyenne and her friend Natalie, who were both like best friends at the time, are getting kind of together to kind of dig into this deeper. They both have personal reasons for wanting this to be solved, and Cheyenne especially, her mother is kind of obsessed with the woods. She's got a lot of rituals and things that she does. She's very big on the local legends, but this book took me for a journey. It took me for a ride. I mean, the twists and turns with this, even some of the things I called were still surprising with the way they came out, and the woods themselves are like a character in this because of how dark and creepy and prominent they are in this book, which I really love when a setting is so real that it feels like a character almost. I personally love that, and Katherine Greene did an amazing job with making the forest come to life in a very spooky, ominous, like kind of oppressive way. Night Watcher by Daphne Woolsoncroft. This doesn't have a prominent spooky location, but it is a very intense psychological thriller about a main character who feels they're being watched, which makes it a very ominous read. Our main character in this book is a live radio host in Oregon, and she's taken over this job from her dad, and the live radio show specializes in calls about like UFOs and kind of like darker topics of life, sometimes crimes as well. And one night they get a call from a woman who's describing an incident eerily similar to one the main character went through as a child, which is where our main character Nola eerily escaped this man named the Hiding Man, who is a notorious serial killer in this area, and she is one of the only people known to survive them. And the woman describes an incident similar to this on the call, which sets Nola's paranoia off. So Nola is personally concerned that the Hiding Man has resurfaced after all these years. She is on just looking everywhere. She is paranoid. She's scared. This is very much a psychological, like intense thriller about what, like, is she a reliable narrator? At some points, we don't know. It's very, very creepy and intense. There seems to be more and more incidents happening. The police aren't always taking things seriously. And as you can just tell from the title, The Night Watcher, it is truly a story about being watched and kind of stalked in a way. So it is very, very creepy and eerie. You're very much on the edge of your seat for Nola throughout this book as you're worried about her safety. So I had a really good time with this book. I think I gave it like 4 stars or so, and I thought it was a really intense, gripping read that I had a hard time putting down. A Flicker in the Dark by Stacy Willingham. This one and Forget Me Not, her newest book, are my favorites I've read by this author. This one involves a psychologist in a small Louisiana town. Our main character in this is Chloe, and as a teenager there were 6 missing girls in her small Louisiana town. By the end of the summer, her father had confessed to their murders and was hauled away and imprisoned. 20 years later, Chloe is in her early 30s. She's planning her wedding. She's trying to just get a grasp on her life and to still, just get past what had happened to her when she was 12 and everything her family dealt with as a result of her father's choices. It seems like history is starting to repeat itself, and she's noticing trends where girls are going missing in a similar fashion, and she's starting to have questions. And this starts to really mess with her. She starts to wonder, is she paranoid, or is she seeing parallels that aren't there between these crimes? Is it someone else? Is it a copycat? What is going on? I remember some really gripping scenes from this in very creepy locations. I don't want to give the locations away because it's not said on the back, but this one really had some very good kind of creepy southern vibes because of the setting, and I really did enjoy this. You get to read multiple timelines as well, which I loved, and the ending for this, oh, so good. Home is Where the Bodies Are by Jeneva Rose. This one involves a childhood home that feels less than cozy. We have 3 siblings, one who is living with the mother before she passed away, and the other 2 who have returned home after the mother passes away to like pack up the home. And while they're moving about and unpacking and packing things up, they stumble across a box of VHSs, and these are like family movies, and they're really excited, so they decide, let's watch them. They're kind of in a tenuous place with their relationships. These siblings aren't very close, but they think this will be a nice activity. And unfortunately, one of the VHSs reveals something very concerning. While they're watching the VHS, they come across one where their father is covered in blood. And not only is their father covered in blood, but there's a dead body in front of him, and this dead body happens to be from an unsolved mystery that year in 1999 that happened in their neighborhood. And shortly after this tape was taken, the father disappeared and has been out of their lives since then. So these three siblings are grappling with what they just saw. They are shocked. They have no reasonable explanation for this other than to think their father had something to do with it. So now the siblings are trying to figure out if they should dig deeper into this, try to solve the mystery, get the family closure. Should they keep this dark secret that their mother had been keeping all these years because they can no longer ask her or the father really about it because they don't know where their dad is? It's a really gripping story about grief and loss and what people will do to protect like loved ones. It's a very interesting read. I need to read more by this author. I had a very good time with this one. Do What Godmother Says by Ellis Stratton. One of my favorite thriller reads this year. It is such a unique genre blend between historical fiction and a modern day thriller, and don't let the historical fiction part scare you if you're not a big historical fiction reader, because this was done so masterfully. I loved it. So we have two timelines we're reading. We're reading one from like the 1920s. We're reading from Estelle, who is a Harlem Renaissance artist. We know in the present day timeline her career never really took off, and she was also someone who was an artist with a patron named the Godmother. And what creeps you out even more about this is that this was based on a true story if you read the acknowledgements. So just keep that in mind when you're reading it. It adds an extra layer of terror. The Godmother is a patron of the arts and a big supporter of the Harlem Renaissance artists in the area. However, she has very interesting and controlling demands, and Estelle is feeling increasingly claustrophobic and scared for her well-being. In the future timeline, which takes place in like our time, we have a young woman who is helping her grandmother, and her grandmother passes on this family painting, which is actually done by Estelle. And the young woman feels a strong connection to the painting, and she's asking her grandmother questions about it, trying to figure out more about Estelle because she, like we said, her name as an artist never really took off, so she wasn't sure about this painting. But things start to happen. Like, it seems like there's a lot of interest in this painting and she doesn't know why. And our main character in the modern day timeline, it feels like she's being stalked. She feels like she's becoming increasingly paranoid. She also struggles with anxiety, so she's wondering, is this in my head? Is this real? What's happening here? We also learn that the Godmother had been murdered and Estelle went missing shortly after that. So she is kind of digging into this historical mystery while trying to figure out what is happening and if she's in danger in the present day timeline. It was an incredibly gripping read, one of my favorites of the year. It will definitely make my favorites of the year list. I had such a good time with it. For a classic thriller suggestion, I say And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Oh, and I know Agatha Christie is more well known for mysteries, but this one truly is a thriller. And if you've never read Agatha Christie, it's one I would recommend starting with because it is more fast-paced than the majority of her mysteries. Basically, we have 10 strangers. They are invited to an island, so it is remote. They are trapped on this island in this estate, and they've all been invited there under false pretenses. Once they are cut off from the mainland, their host each accuses them of a terrible crime, and they start to die one by one, and they can't get off this island. It is incredibly gripping. It was one of my first Agatha Christie's. It's very fast-paced, especially considering it's a classic. It's not a contemporary book. So if you're looking to start, or you want to dabble into some classics, this is a great one. Very, very eerie. However, if you like a contemporary thriller and you're looking for something with that kind of concept where it's a one-by-one situation, I recommend 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. This is my favorite by this author. Basically, 9 strangers in this who seemingly have no connection. They each get a piece of paper in the mail, and this piece of paper has their name and 8 other people's names on it, and they have no idea who this is from, like, is this a prank? Like, what is going on? Because they don't know these other people on the list. And one of the people on this list turns in the note because she's an FBI agent, so she's used to getting some weird mail, and as a precaution, she turns it into the FBI office, and they realize that some of the people on the list have actually died recently, and it seems like they're probably just everyday deaths, but they kind of dig into it a little bit because it's a little strange. Some recent deaths, it seems like a little more than average. And as you might suspect, it appears that someone is going after these people one by one. You get to go through this and read different points of views from the different people. You're also trying to figure out what is the connection, why are people going after these, why is someone going after these people? Is there some kind of connection to these people that they don't know about? Because the FBI is trying to run all of these, different searches on the names, try to figure out, like, did they go to the same school? Like, what is the connection here? Or are they truly just random? Oh, there was a chapter in this, like, I still remember reading it. I was gobsmacked. I was so shocked, but this one will have you on the edge of your seat, just knowing that the people on this list are dying one by one and trying to figure out what is going on. The Hacienda by Isabel Canas. This one is gripping. This one does lean a little more into horror, and our main character in this one, it's kind of like a part Rebecca retelling. It's very reminiscent of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, if you're familiar with the storyline. Basically, a young woman decides that she's going to marry rich because she's grown up very poor, and she decides that even though this man she's going to marry has an interesting reputation, which we'll go into in a minute, she decides to marry him for his wealth, and she moves into his home, the Hacienda, and this is a beautiful big mansion. But she soon discovers that even her sister-in-law, who lives there full-time, will not sleep in this house overnight. And it appears that this house is haunted. It is very creepy. This is one I barely made it through. It was very, very creepy, very like haunted house vibes. And part of that, there's also a housekeeper who's kind of like Miss Danvers. But our main character marries this man, and he is rumored to have killed his first wife. So very much in the same vein of Rebecca, where there are rumors about the husband and what happened to his first wife. And our main character, Beatrice, finds out that this house seems to be like possessed almost. So she actually enlists the help of a priest in the area, and they kind of have a forbidden attraction going on because she's a married woman and he's a priest. But this is just a really fascinating blend of thriller and horror elements, suspense, a little bit of romance. It has a very feminist bent, which I liked. And the descriptions of the house, it truly felt so like it was coming in on me. Like, I felt the fear that the character had. It was so well written and very creepy, had gothic feel to it. So if you are a fan of Rebecca, or if you're looking for a very spooky kind of haunted house setup, this is a good one. The Death of Miss Westaway by Ruth Ware. This was in my recent thriller video on my top favorite thrillers, which I'll link above, and this one features a very creepy, rich estate, as you can see with this gorgeous gate here. Our main character in this is Harriet Westaway, or Hal, and she gets a letter saying that she's been bequeathed a fortune from her grandmother. However, she knows that they've made a mistake. She's not actually the granddaughter of this person, but she is kind of a con artist and she's desperate. So she decides to impersonate a family member, go to the will reading, collect the money, and like basically skedaddle out of there, right? But when she gets there at this very creepy estate with like locked gates, it's a very, very like locked down, isolated setting that will just set you, like, it'll give you chills. It's very creepy. She discovers that the other people in this family have a lot of beef with each other. There's a lot of rich people, like drama and family history, and she is more afraid of the family than anything. This takes place at a sprawling estate in the English countryside. It's very ominous. If I remember right, there were some like past timelines or things that you get to explore. Yes, there are. And I just absolutely loved this. I wish I could read this again for the first time. There were so many twists and turns, like a very fun mystery situation with thriller elements, because you just feel so uneasy and worried for Hal and the family members, because there's so much drama with the inheritance that you're worried like maybe they're gonna come after her or someone else. Like, are they gonna find out that she's a scam artist? It is a really gripping read. I so recommend this. It's one of my favorite Ruth Wares. What They Don't Know by Susan Furlong. This is one that's both a very dark psychological thriller, warning for dolls, and has a very creepy home. It does take place in like a suburban neighborhood, but these are very big, very nice homes. And our main character is a mom. She is a mother and wife, and she has a teenage son. And she is worried that the police think her son had something to do with this missing teen girl who he was like friends with. So she's basically going to go to any length to prove that her son didn't do this. But she's not exactly the most she's not the most stable person herself mentally, and this one will really creep you out. At the same time, before the police had arrived to question her about her son had run away from home and become entangled in like the wrong crowd, as she puts it, and so she is determined to get her son back at all costs. She's going through social media. She is going to discover what happened no matter what. And it's fascinating. And this is a woman who seems to have it all. She's got a beautiful home. She's got a great family. It is very, very disturbing and a very fast-paced read. I really remember enjoying this. The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier. This is a serial killer thriller. I recently did a serial killer thriller recommendation video. I'll link it above. This one, ooh, it's all about family secrets and what you'll do to protect yourself. This one features our main character, Matt. He is the grandson of Edward Shank, and Edward Shank is a famous police detective who was very well known for putting away the Butcher, who is a serial killer. That was like his big career moment. And Matt is inheriting his grandfather's home. His grandfather is being moved to like a nursing facility, and Matt moves in and he discovers in the backyard a chest that is buried, and it will make him question everything he knows. If you don't want to know what's in that, I mean, that alone, I just wanted to know what was in the chest so badly. At the same time, we're reading from his girlfriend's perspective at times, because his girlfriend, I think she's some kind of like journalist, but she's also very curious about the Butcher and is talking to the grandfather a lot about it, because she suspects that her mother was actually murdered by the Butcher, but it doesn't line up with the timeline of when the chief put the Butcher away. So was it a copycat? Is she wrong? What is going on? This one is not necessarily the most shocking thriller you'll ever read, but it is so suspenseful and intense and fascinating to look at these people, because you're kind of studying all three of these people, the detective, the grandson, and the grandson's girlfriend, and you're looking at them and going, what will they do to find out the truth or to hide the truth, or like, oh, it's my favorite Jennifer Hillier. It is very dark. She has a very dark writing style, so keep that in mind, but I very much recommend this for a very spooky, intense, serious read. The Family Lies by Angela Henry. I feel like a broken record recommending this book, but it is so good. I will not stop. I read this in January. I think it came out last year. This one features a librarian. She is down on her luck. She's working in a bookshop. She gets approached by Theo, who is this wealthy son of he's a part of a family that's very wealthy. They have this big estate in the area, which is a very creepy setting, and he hires her to be a personal librarian for the estate to organize his mother's collection. She's got a huge personal library, but it is completely in disarray, and he pays her a very handsome salary to move into the estate and to be a full-time librarian. And she can't say no. She's in a very bad position right now. She's got struggles with her sister. Like she needs the money. She moves in. It sounds like a dream job. She loves working as a librarian, but she discovers that Theo was the last one seen with this girl who's now missing. And that kind of kicks off this mystery and her snooping around. There's also a very controlling housekeeper with a lot of rules that are very strange to her and over the top. And oh, the ending for this, there were so many parts of the ending that completely floored me. I still think about this ending, and I read it in January. Such a good read and a very creepy, like huge estate setting, which I really loved. And then last but not least, When I'm Dead by Hannah Morrissey. This one is a fascinating detective mystery thriller about two parents and what they'll do to find their teenage daughter. This book actually takes place in October. Our main character is Rowan. She's a medical examiner, and she's called to the scene of a crime where a teen girl has been found murdered, and she's shocked to realize that this is her daughter's best friend that she's looking at. So not only is this horrifying to her, but she realizes shortly after this that she can't get a hold of her own daughter, and it appears that her daughter is missing. So her and her husband are understandably freaking out. They're trying to figure out what happened to their daughter. They're trying to get a hold of her, go to all the places she normally frequents, and they're peeling back the layers of their daughter's life to realize they don't know very much about her. And these details threaten to tear this marriage apart as they hunt for their daughter. It is gripping, it is intense. The ending for this is still stuck in my head, and I really liked Rowan personally as a character. I thought she was very interesting to read. I liked the medical examiner bit, and I would recommend this. And that is everything for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this thriller recommendation video with an emphasis on very chilling, dark psychological thrillers and ones with like some eerie settings if you enjoy like a spooky setting. I hope this one helps you make your Halloween TBR. Let me know what your favorite chilling thriller is down below, and check out my thriller recommendations playlist if you're looking for more recommendations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!